Hey.
Hey folks, oh my goodness, my gosh, we're back. Been
Ah,
traveling. Just so you know, I just recently moved house and I'm in the opposite part of Japan, so boys in Okinawa, and I'm in all at the top, not in Hokkaido, but just below. And it's well, let's just say it's gonna get real in winter time, but so far so
yeah,
good.
man. Japan's great, interesting country because you go south, you get the tropical weather, but it's hot most of the year, and then you go north, you get fantastic ski weather. But
Yeah,
the winters can be brutal up there, I'm told.
my wife is just like, we're just clutching our pearls right now. So my gosh, but yeah, have you been
Yeah,
traveling too, man?
it's good that you travelled away, but you listed in one country. I recently came back from a visit to the UK. It was nice. I got to see friends and family, touch base, see how they're doing, and get the lay of the land from my friend's perspective. See how the country's doing. Mixed
Mm,
results, to be honest, mixed answers. But it's either neither here nor there. That is what it is. But we're back. We've
we're
got
back.
lots of exciting things coming down the pipeline. We've got a few new faces popping up,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things up in the air that we're kind of working on.
Mm.
But we're hoping we can get these things kind of tied up and then talk about them more. But we can't talk about them while we're doing them in case it doesn't work out. So um, stay tuned.
Stay
Click.
tuned.
Remember to subscribe, chat, comment, all that jazz. Um, yeah, long-time fans or long-time viewers of our channel will know that we tend to get on here. We tend to ramble along about a bunch of different topics, and if you're interested in topics, remember we've stopped saying it, but we should go back to classic videos. If there's anything you want us to elaborate on, if there's any topics there or any thoughts that you want us to expand upon, boom, put them in the comments. We read them all. We do.
Certainly.
So, with that said, we're going to come out. We'll come back with. There's a lot of things going on in the media. We've got Xbox doing another round of layoffs. We've been talking for a while. Before our little break, we were talking a lot about the Nintendo becoming more like Disney with their Vault, and Xbox trying to pivot themselves out to being the Netflix of gaming. But maybe, maybe we were wrong. Maybe Xbox isn't doing as well as at least I thought. I thought they were doing all right with their console sales and definitely pivoting to PC gaming. Having
Mm.
Microsoft putting Game Pass on Windows, I thought that was bringing in a lot of numbers, but maybe not. I mean, they've been cannibalizing larger companies. They bought out Activision and other companies to try and bring them under the banner of Microsoft. But if they are doing another round of layoffs so soon, ooh, you know,
Uh,
apparently, I mean, I need to spend a bit of time to confirm this. We might circle back on this in a later video, but I've heard that Microsoft is changing their guard. Is their current head is stepping down and someone else is stepping up. Um, because they have been cannibalizing all aspects of Xbox gaming to support Game Pass, to kind of bolster Game Pass and to make it lucrative, because it is the only thing that's selling. Game Pass is the only thing that the Xbox Studios is doing that is profitable. Everything else is failing. Their brand new IPs, their console sales, they are hemorrhaging money, and the only thing they're doing is just bolstering this one aspect because it's successful. But that is a wildly short term mindset. If you destroy, or if you cannibalize, if you wood chip the
mm.
whole, all a bunch of aspects of your gaming divisions, and to keep one aspect afloat, the moment that one stumbles, you've got nothing. You've got no fallback. I mean, Nintendo,
Yeah.
yeah, we've been complaining about them and their pricing for the Switch 2 for a while, but they're becoming Disney. They're
Yeah.
diversifying. They're introducing movies, theme museums, theme parks. They have aggressively diversifying. And forgive me, I did feel like I had to purchase some Nintendo merch to show you. but I'm scared. I went into a Toys R Us, which is still around in Japan, funnily enough.
Yeah.
And I took one look and went, no, I can't do this. I have so little money to spare this month because I'm traveling, and I don't want to be blowing all my money I've got for travel on, frankly, fantastically looking toys, like really good quality. Google
Yeah.
this thing, but in the coming weeks, I will have some to show you.
All
Um,
right.
I think I have to do it for the channel. I have to. It's just
Yeah.
my hands are tied.
Looking forward to it. I gotta say,
Nothing
good
I
thing
can
someone
do.
knows the weight, man. My,
But
and
yeah,
yeah. Wow, you just dropped a lot of stuff on our plate. I mean, yeah, I didn't know about that about Microsoft myself, but it's funny. You don't want to. I'm. It's funny. We, I guess, it's kind of a friendly rivalry that we kind of have going on with these companies, and that almost like siblings. What happens is that I root for games as a whole
yes,
to succeed because we know what it's like. I mean, I'm glad you shared your anecdotes with us, and that whereby you feel coming up under the stigma of what it meant to be a gamer years ago when you're just supposed to be a social outcast, so to speak. And to the point where now where people are all of a sudden they're proud of companies put money into gaming, even the Chinese esporting scene, which I was talking to you a while um, about. All of a sudden, when let's say the machine, the system supports gaming, and you should be a gamer too. Get a game on your phone and game with your family, game with your nan, and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden it's cool, and then you don't want that to go away because what happened again, speaking of China, just like with the esports scene, it kind of just vanished because all of a sudden the powers that be went against it. But the spirit doesn't die. The spirit is still there. It's just
yeah.
underfoot. So I'm rooting for games. When it comes to Xbox, I may be rooting for Nintendo primarily because I just love Nintendo in Japan. But here we go. I'm also saying I want them to succeed, that Microsoft to succeed because of what they've done for the gaming scene. I went to one of those gaming courses that you probably heard of popping up 20 odd years ago, I suppose. No, not 20, 15 or whatever. A number of years ago. And I was there through the stigma changing, watching the stigma change gradually between games that are taken seriously now, games that are taken seriously now, more and more so. But before, so it's just nerdville. I mean, I admit, when I went to my course, only guys there, no girls, guys, and then finally it
It
started to
was
change.
marketed towards guys. I mean,
Mm,
you had the old MUDs, the old massively online device games, but they were basically text to speech, were played out of universities. You know, the connection between universities to play online was not permanent, it was a temporary thing. They were developing the infrastructure that would become the internet. And we had early gaming was arcade machines, you know, they were just coin grabs, you know, gacha machines. They were fun, amazing, but you know, the moment you died, bam, you have to keep paying. Early video games, very, very rudimentary. Your Master Systems, your NESs. Uh, it wasn't until PlayStation, I think, that the culture around gaming began to pivot. Where before, you're right, you know, gaming
mm,
was seen as kind of a lesser, childish counterculture thing. Well, not counterculture because countercultures tend to be quite popular, but more like
mm.
underground. It was kind of a loser. It's like a board games, you know, and
Yeah.
Warhammer tabletop gaming. It was seen as kind of a fringe or a niche hobby. But
Mm,
then, you know, PlayStation occurred and went big gangbusters, and they sold itself as quite hip and cool. There's a great line from Penny Arcade, which is arguably one of the world's most successful video game comic book strip. It's like a weekly comic book strip that's been going on for decades.
okay.
That comic strip was so successful, it created its own video game event, PAX, which is now a respected part of
No,
the gaming landscape. Yeah,
it came from there.
Penny
Oh my God.
Arcade Expo, PAX.
How did I not know
How successful is your little doodle when you've got gaming industries coming to you to like, yo, we want to announce our games at your event, dude? They did good. But there was a great quote by one of their early books when they were talking about the cultural pivot,
that?
and they said, yeah, it was a surreal moment when the kids who bullied us when Sony began marketing their new game console to the kids who used to bully us. You're like,
Yeah, oh my
what?
God.
But
It's
it's
still
true.
good.
Between that event, between the massive marketing push that Xbox had when it first came out, and then I don't particularly like mobile gaming. I think it's quite a cesspit of gacha and awful practices. But the accessibility of putting games and just simple point and click and touch games on smartphones meant that it ceased to be a gaming thing and it became a gamer thing and became an everybody thing. And we've seen that just kind of genuine inception of games as an entertainment form throughout the years until now it's the world's entertainment form, where people play games more than they watch movies, and in many cases more than they listen to music. You know, everybody games. You know, even like my dad was talking about games he played with his missus, and I'm like, he says, the shit you gave me, pardon my French,
Yeah, but
for
I know we
gaming,
feel
Jesus.
it's a
But
funny.
it's a funny thing. It is a funny thing, but it's great to see that. But with that has meant that there's an enormous amount of money in
There
it.
is.
There is a lot of money on the table, and that has caused some bad actors to do some pretty shady things. And it is disheartening, especially when bigger, more established companies go that route. Microsoft introducing, mobile gaming aspects like microtransactions to their $60 games. Dude, their initial argument, go back and look at it. This is Dead Space 3. Go back, Google Dead Space 3 and the controversy. They basically added microtransactions to that thing because they were trying to get mobile gamers to play. And they're like, oh, well, microtransactions are in mobile games. We have to add them to our $60 game because that's what they expect. And now it's the norm.
Stupid.
But having established companies do counter customer practices, it's kind of an awful thing. And on that, we're going to segue straight into the topic of today's video, the bricking of Switch 2s. It's begun. We did a video on this not long ago, but it's becoming more of a problem. Now, can a company have a say over what a product they've sold? I think that's the crux of the argument. I mean, Nintendo is saying that, everything's digital. You're using you buy the product, but you also buy the license to use the product. And they're not the first company to do this. This is a business strategy used by a number of companies, and it does allow them to brick or change their hardware remotely. Nintendo have adopted it because it's a larger measure of control, but it feels so counterculture to gaming as an industry, because gaming has always had a robust emulation, modding scene. Many games wouldn't be alive if not for the modders. Bethesda.
Yeah.
Skyrim wouldn't be around without the modders, without loyal, noble programmers scribbling away, going through the code and making that stuff work. But now it's like, we're abandoning them. We're abandoning this aspect. And so one country has had enough. One country is actively saying, no, this is we're not going to do this, and they're taking up the cause in the courts. It's quite exciting, actually. So let me just share the screen.
Oh, hold on. You got the control. My word.
Okay, yeah, there's going to be a lot of noise here. I'm going to show you I'm going to share just a portion of the screen, so it's a little tidier. Portion, share. There we go.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Apparently, Nintendo is getting a taste of their own medicine with a Switch 2 lawsuit. This is this webpage is the comic book resource. They've got a good article about this.
They love suing people, but now it's their turn. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read through, and then we're going to talk about it. So just get the base facts first, or at least the information first. So Nintendo is notorious for suing others whether it's for individuals hacking their games or going after other developers for copying their gaming properties. That's true. Famously
Hmm.
litigious. I'm still pissed because of AM2R, another Metroid 2 remake, came out almost around the time that Nintendo was officially releasing a Metroid 2 remake, but AM2R was the superior product. But they just
Hmm.
cut that off right when it was released. Decade of work releasing that fan game, and we got what, two patches, two improvement patches for it. But now the tables have turned, and Brazil is taking legal action over Nintendo's recent announcement that it can brick consoles whenever it wants. Yes. Someone has
Hmm.
to be the first.
I want to see that.
Someone
It's a
has
big
to be
part of Brazil.
one to bear the weight, to go into the stream and fight the current. Someone's got to be the first because
Hmm.
legality is based on precedent. If there isn't a precedent, it's hard to get things done. So, for good or ill,
Hmm.
someone's got to be the first one to do it. It's why people get antsy whenever there's talk of legality being brought to YouTube, because there hasn't really been any massive landmark cases against people producing content on YouTube and YouTube's use of takedowns, because people have been using YouTube's own takedown system to kind of weaponize it against people they don't like for a while. It's just
Yeah.
an open secret that it's done. But nobody's brought those cases out of YouTube and to the courts, because whoever does that, they set the precedent, and you might not like where it's going to go.
Hmm.
So, reports started to come to light that discussed Nintendo's ability to restrict Nintendo Switch consoles, which we saw in a previous video we talked about, from accessing all online services if they detect any third-party mods installed on the console. While this is already quite shocking for some gamers, it will soon discover that people buying the Switch 2s from second-hand markets were received as those bricked consoles. Oh, I never even thought about
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Oh no. Maybe I didn't send it to you last time. People. Yeah. There are videos of people buying bricks, which I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen. Somebody just sell them and say, "Hey,
I
yes, it's
I
totally
can't
fine."
believe I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I know that many companies have been trying to kill the second-hand market. I mean,
Mm.
Microsoft tried to introduce a DRM thing. Whenever you buy a second-hand game, you had to pay a small fee to activate it on your console. That died a quick death. But Jesus, like bricked Switch 2s will flood the market, and it
Of course.
will disincentivize people from buying second-hand consoles, because how can you need someone to confirm that it's playable before you purchase, and a lot of companies won't do that.
Hmm.
Oh, that is
Yep. Yep. Yep.
insidious. That is Darth Insidious, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I need a
Could be
cloak. I need to
Bowser.
get myself a hood or something. That is so. Ooh. Oh, that is evil. So, Brazil, on June 25th, so like a week ago, no, a little over a
Mhm.
week, the Sao Paulo branch of Brazil's Consumer Protection and Defense Program, Procon SP, which I gotta say is a pretty badass acronym. That feels very cyberpunk. Dude, we're from Procon SP. Shared a press release requesting Nintendo to change its end user license agreement. Procon SP initially stated, quote, Procon SP notified Nintendo requesting changes to clauses considered abusive in contracts signed with Brazilian consumers. The main complaint involves the unilateral and unjustified cancellation of subscriptions to the company's services.
Hmm. That's the thing about this whole thing. I got this that American friend I was mentioning it too. He was a bit short-sighted in terms of me talking about the dark side of what Nintendo is doing. So I thought, you know what, I won't bring up them again until this lawsuit is concluded. If Brazil wins, I'll be like, see, there's indeed something to this. I can understand the whole. Well, here's the angle was that, oh, Nintendo maybe indeed are doing things to crack down on the second-hand market and protecting their IP and everything and their games. But here's the thing: you can't consolidate all that power in one place, especially when these companies are so arbitrary in the bloody first place. They decide that, we're not making Switch anymore. But I want to buy another one. Can I get a second one? No, it's strict. Like, it's like, and you can't do that to people. At the same time, I understand them wanting to. If they're here's the thing, if they're quite liberal and letting letting anybody get any console whenever you ask for it, or just the prices were nice and reasonable, and if it was there's no incentive to actually get a second-hand thing when the getting it from the sports market is better. That's one thing, but they are tight-fisted. They're quite miserly sometimes with their stuff, and it's like I can't even trust you to give me the game I bought a while ago. You took it off your bloody server.
Yeah,
Um,
quite is carrying a lot of weight there. They're quite bad.
yeah, I'm trying to be kind here, but yo, I hope here's the thing. I mean, we're only in a few paragraphs through the article, but I really hope that Brazil win and give them a good black eye. That being said, I understand what Nintendo are trying to do, but there's got to be some sort. You got to strike a deal. You got a deal. You got
It's
some sort
interesting
of
you
a
said that
win-win.
if they were less litigious, if they were more liberal, if they were more
Mm,
open with their products, we would be more willing to put up with this. It's interesting. I think there's something to be said there about fostering an ecosystem. If you're the first party, if you're the console producer, if you're the basking shark, if you're the big dog in
mm,
on the reef, a lot of other species survive off of you. But that diversification is needed because it feeds back into your quality of life. I want to circle back to that. Let's just finish this.
okay.
Essentially, Procon SP believe that Nintendo is violating consumer protection rules by cancelling subscriptions and denying access to online services, including the eShop. I thought that was a reasonable position. I think that if the company has the right to cut your online access, if you want to mod your console, fine. You don't get to buy more from us. We'll just close the doors of buying more products. If you want to buy physical, fine, but you can't do anything digitally. And that means updates and patches are also cut off. But you can't, but bricking the console, ooh, so for
Mm,
me, it's a bridge too far. While Nintendo has stated that bricking a console is only done if someone has used pirated software, the ability to do this to customers who already paid for the Switch 2 and its services is not sitting right with representatives in Brazil. Nintendo has
okay.
no legal presence in Brazil, so Procom SP had to contact the company's US headquarters to discuss the matter. In response, Nintendo has appointed a law firm to deal with this case, which includes a change in Nintendo's bricking policies and even appointed a representative in Brazil. Nintendo now has 20 days to respond to Procom SP's request. This
Wow.
is, it's currently unclear if Nintendo will change its policies.
Ah.
I I have much I would like to bring up, but
Mm,
I will briefly want to touch on the fact that it's Brazil doing this. Now, recently, the last couple, no, not only a few years ago, the EU pushed Apple to change its charging connection point. That they said that the EU rules are all of them must be standardized. The mic, the what's it called? The USB three. The USB
mm,
three is the standard. The kind of little oval that is
mm.
now across the board. It's industry standard. But Apple were like, oh, no, no, we want to do our own way. We have our own Lightning connection point we've developed. And they're like, no, if you want to sell in Europe, it has to be USB 3. And if they were going to do it for Europe, there's large enough market that they might as well change it for all of them. And they did. They won. And the European Union said, yo, Apple products have to have this all phone products, all electronic goods need this same point because we want all of it to have the same charging connection. You can't have a different charger per product. It's an undue burden on the consumer. And they wouldn't. And they laid down the law that if you want to sell in our territory, this is how you do it. And now all Apple products have the USB 3 within reason. Um, but Apple has been kind of sneaky, and the official cable is quite terrible. It's a really slow connection, and then that way they could sell you the higher, faster connection. It's just a company
Nah.
built by marketing geniuses. People talk about how great their tech is, and like, yeah, their tech's so-so. It's good, but they just market it really well. But the fact that Brazil was the country, sorry, company, was the country to make this because Nintendo has no presence. It's forcing them to come into their court.
Oh, I
It's
see what you're
forcing them to
saying.
play on their
Ah,
turf. They've got the home court
oh,
advantage, and they're introducing this rule.
come on,
And
Brazil.
yeah, they're like, "Yo, come here and let's talk about this." That is a that is big dick energy if I've ever heard it. That is, yo,
Oh my
I want to
God.
talk to you, so you come to me and we will talk about this. Now, obviously, Brazil's not going to win. Nintendo is an enormous company with massive reach. But the fact that they are forcing them to come on their turf, to have a presence on their space in order to fight this, yeah, because if they fight this, and even if they make headway, they don't even have to win. If they just make headway and set about legal precedent, because the law is all based on previous precedent, all they need to do is set precedent, and that will allow other players to step in and go, yo, well, based upon this ruling, you can't do this, which will force companies to, force Nintendo to deal with anti-consumer practices. I gotta say, you stand aside because when they turn, you might get hit. They are swinging that big a dick energy, like woo! It's a
Yeah,
fucking log.
dude. Dude, it's fantastic, dude. I gotta say one more thing. When the game industry started, I don't want to talk about the game industry. Okay, when the NES came out, maybe even the SNES, but those two. Um, what was the scene like? I mean, from what you retained about this history, the lore. What does it seem like in terms of piracy? I mean, today, a piracy issue, you can understand why companies are trying to fight it so much because it's super easy to just, with Steam, what have you, or just go on a torrent site and grab all the games you want. When when the game hit the scene, Nintendo, when they put like the SNES on the market or the NES, I guess were they rather relatively assured? Do they feel relatively assured that people are going to buy our thing and they're going to only get it from us? Is that are they trying to recreate those years? Is that what?
Oh, it's an interesting question because I'm sure that there probably was something of a secondhand scene, like a black market for games. But honestly, it just wasn't as prevalent, especially in Europe. We didn't have a black market for secondhand games. We had official secondhand stores. You could buy the games, but it was an officially licensed Nintendo product. It was more Game Genie. It was more hacking to change
Ah,
games.
yeah, and
That
Game Pass and
because
everything.
because obviously the game code was held by a computer chip. So all the cartridge was just like a computer chip in a plastic case. Plug it in,
Mm.
it plays the computer chip. The device, the console read the chip and was able to turn that into a game. Without the combination of the console and the cartridge, you didn't get a game. So there were people who were making edits to it, but it was hardware. It wasn't software. We didn't really start seeing emulation and black market game use until CDs, until PlayStation, first PlayStation generation. That was when people began to be able to rip games off of discs and put them on other discs. So you would get like hacked consoles that could play hacked discs that had a whole bunch of games on them. But before then, the the black market wasn't like cheap copies of games. It was more hacking and breaking games. It was kind of
Yeah, that's fine.
uh, breaking open games. But you're quite right. It's interesting. But they're them trying to step back to a point where they have absolute control over the games themselves. We just don't live in a world like that anymore. You're talking about a pre-internet world. It's a different landscape now. We don't even communicate the same way. Our
Yeah,
lexicon, our language has changed. The way we do business, the way we trade, where we purchase our products. I mean, as much as I rag on Amazon, it's really, really convenient system, and that has shaped the way I find products. I will do a little Amazon search if I'm looking for a product, and then I'll try and find it in a store. But I function differently after the internet and pre the internet. Yeah, getting this information out was hard. without a magazine, without a buddy who knew a buddy who had a guy on the inside. Nobody knew about these kind of things. So
Thing.
second, no, so like emulation just wasn't a thing because nobody had access. It wasn't until the internet that we were able to, people who could copy games had a means to transfer this. But it did change the landscape, and I feel like I think you're right. Nintendo is trying to get back to a point where they have control over their platform, but
Yeah, the
I
way
think
it's
it's a bridge
changed.
too far. I think
Um,
blocking access to a console because you're putting a chip in it, you're changing it, and that's fine. They sold your product to be used as is, and you're editing that product. That's your product to do with as you do so, but they don't have to support you while you do it. That's
yeah,
fair.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's the
so
bricking. It's you're unable to use the product and then flooding the market with bricked products, the second-hand market, which will kill the second-hand market. That no,
yeah, yeah,
I don't stand for
yeah.
that.
And the funniest thing is, I think what Nintendo's all this is true Bowser stuff, people. I'm gonna keep running that pun all the way to the end. Um, because what's going on? Nintendo are all about, again, this is the destructive side, not the creative side. Nintendo is not being creative with hardware. The one thing that protected them, especially since the Wii, protected them from um, all the advancements in the industry or the marketplace and what have you, is the fact that they had the remote or they had the way that you play the game. Again, the Virtual Boy is one other 10, but everything they had the way that you play the game is part of the experience that you can't download a physical Wii or a physical Switch, what have you. You can get all access to all this stuff and what have you, but if you get an actual if you want to play the game the way to the fullest, you've got to get the physical thing. When they came out with the Switch 2, not the Super Switch, sadly, they just said, you know what, we're gonna try and how about we just do if you know what it feels like? The Switch 2 feels like the Mario Brothers, the new Super Mario Brothers Wii 2. Like the second Super Mario Brothers on the I think it's on the Wii U. Oh, no, it's not called Wii 2. It's called
Well,
uh
Galaxy Two.
no, no, not Galaxy. This new Super Mario Brothers, the 2.5D game you're running, and it's
Oh,
called
Super Mario 3D World.
no, no, no. The first one is the new Super Mario Brothers. Um, remember the Wii had like you can play as Toad, and I don't mean the 3D world is like it's got Crash Bandicoot
Oh,
Chase
you're killing me
Campaign.
here. I have to figure this out. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna
Uh,
find it. We
the new Super Mario Brothers Wii.
Mario game. Okay, New Super Mario Brothers Wii.
Yeah, but it's called the new Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, it was literally
Yeah.
called the New Super Mario Brothers, and it was there was a series of Mario games that were called the New games, because the Wii had Super Mario Galaxy, that was their 3D Mario, but their 2D one was New Super Mario Brothers, and yeah, it had the four characters on it.
Yeah, and then when they made the sequel to that, this whole thing reminds of Street Fighter 4, just bringing it back. But when they brought the new Super Mario Brothers, I mean, the sequel to that game, it was essentially the same game, but they thought they just turned the story on its head. That is to say, we didn't kidnap the princess, we kidnapped Mario and his gang, throw you away from the princess, and you have to get back to the princess.
Yeah.
And so it's got something going on here. The Switch 2, the Switch, and they've tried to resell it through some sort of an inversion in some way. In that they're not going to be creative with the hardware, they're going to be creative with how to F you with the hardware. That's to say,
Oh, that's
we're gonna.
interesting. A way of
Mm,
conceptualizing it, like
mm,
Nintendo, you're absolutely right about way to play because Shigeru
mm.
Miyamoto is basically the granddad, the face of Nintendo, the guy who created Link and Donkey Kong and Mario, and he has long been a bit of a thorn in the side for developers because he's as enamored by the way you play the game than the game you play. And
Mm.
that's why we haven't had a Star Fox game in a while because there are no new ways to play that game. I'd have been happy with like every couple of years, bang out another Star Fox, new villain, same method, just a railgun shooter in space shooting things, polishing that mechanics, give us some new gameplay, new gameplay features, new weapons. Just a regular franchise. I'd have been happy with that. I love Star Fox. Lilac Wars is one of my favorite games on the N64, but because there's nothing new to add to it, he's got no interest in it. Same with F-Zero. Great game. F-Zero GX on the GameCube is peak, is like the GOAT. It's the perfect F-Zero game. And that's why we haven't had a new one since then, because there's no way to iterate on it.
Mm.
And I respect that because it has been allowed the company to become successful because they could try new ways of doing things. I mean, mobile gaming, the things they've done, motion controls, brilliant. But if they are trying to implement new ways of playing, they can't implement new ways of playing because they've got a winner with the Switch. So now they're trying to implement new ways of monetizing. That's an interesting
I see.
take on it. Right, we're going to take a
Exactly.
quick break now.
Yeah, sure.
We'll be back in part two to continue this conversation.
Actually, people.
Peace.